So we have Michael from DAT. There is a new website or new product coming up. I think the DAT Power, you guys are replacing with the DAT One. Can you tease us a little bit with this? So we have Michael from DAT, and obviously he will be sharing some tips and tactics how to find best paying loads. Michael, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Michael Abdil. I've been with DAT for 25 years now, and I'm the main product trainer here at DAT, training our internal folks on how our products work so they can best describe to our customers how they work so our customers can get the most use out of them.
We were talking about in the backstage, but there is a new website or new product coming up. I think the DAT Power, you guys are replacing with the DAT One. Can you tease us a little bit with this?
Yeah, DAT One is the new website we're working on that will replace DAT Power over time. It is the future of DAT. It really does introduce digital freight matching to our customer base, where carriers will be able to not have to call to book a load, but actually see all the information they need, including the rate, to actually book a load online or to even bid and send their bid back and forth with the broker until they nail it. So that's kind of like the future, and we're really introducing not just the same sort of tools we have in DAT Power, but we're also introducing a lot of new features that carriers will be able to take advantage of and really make freight matching more efficient.
I think I'm really pumped. I think the audience is ready as well.
Some tips I have for Power users right now, some tools that Power has that you might not be aware of that can really help you find those good paying loads by finding areas where you know that your truck and your services will be in demand. So it's not just about doing a search in DAT Power, but it's about knowing where to do the search and where to position your truck. So I'm going to go ahead and go to search loads here. Just do a typical old load search here just to see what kind of loads we have. And then I'm going to introduce some tools to you. So just typical old like flatbed search from maybe Atlanta. How about we go to zone 7 so we can stay in that area. We'll go ahead and put in a length and weight on our flatbed here. And when you run this search, you're going to see the DAT will bring you back some results, but we're also going to give you these tools up here that I really kind of want to go over with you guys. Going into market conditions here, this is a great tool for carriers because it's going to really show you guys where you're going to be in demand. The areas where there's few trucks, there's lots of loads, so brokers are beating each other up trying to find the best truck out there. And hopefully in that process, you guys are driving up that rate since you are in demand. Market conditions gives you two looks here of US, an outbound look and an inbound look. And for your guys' purposes, we're going to focus on the outbound. This is a heat map, you guys. Heat map of the entire United States, and it's based off of flatbeds right now. And I'm going to look at the prior business day here just to kind of get an idea of what the US looks like as far as capacity goes. What you guys are looking at here is red is hot. What that means is carriers are in demand. All these little red markets you guys are looking at, these are places where carriers are going to get some good results because you're in demand. Brokers know it. They know there's very few trucks here. When they find one, that they're probably going to have to pay higher than the going rate. Why DAT thinks this is a hot market for carriers is because of the data that we're showing over here. It's our load to truck ratio specifically. You can see that for every 10 loads, there's only one truck. We have that based off the actual numbers of 701 load postings to 68 truck postings. You can look at the market, any market you want in here, and assess how it's going to work out for you. That's one of the first tips is start using this market conditions map here, and that's going to really help you identify those great areas.
Michael, is this market conditions, it's additional pay, meaning is it the like subscription level or it comes with the DAT Power?
Actually, market conditions here is available for all Power users. Our carriers, our brokers all have access to this at every price point for DAT Power. So that's one thing that's going to help you guys out in finding those better paying loads. If you're trying to go to one of these blue areas and you're right there looking for a load, you're not going to expect to make a lot. Brokers know that carriers in these areas are desperate. So they're paying those desperate prices, kind of lowball you because you're desperate and you need that load.
So if I'm in Florida, as you mentioned, so there is in Miami, it's like blue, then I can drive a couple hundred miles and then there's a red zone. So basically moving from blue zone to red zone, and then there is the demand.
The difference, I mean, compared to Miami market to the market right above it, and you can see just how many more loads there are. So Miami, you're looking at 451 loads as of yesterday. You go right up into the market right above above that, that would be the Lakeland market, and there's 3,000 loads. You wouldn't have to drive that far right now to get into an area where you're really going to be in demand. Florida doesn't traditionally look very good when it comes to loads, but right now you can see that part of Florida is really hot, especially because we're looking at flatbeds. For vans, it might not be so beautiful. So you look at Florida for vans and it's ice cold, and much of the nation is.
Michael, why is that? Because there are a lot of drive-in owners. Is that the case? I think, in my opinion, like majority of trucking companies, like they are van, maybe 80%. This is what I see on the road.
I see the same thing. It makes it a little hard to explain why it's so cold out there. But I also know that a lot of vans have parked recently just because of the fuel prices have been so expensive. Hopefully, with the fuel coming down, we'll see more vans entering the marketplace.
So this is one of the features using the DAT Power Load Board. Can you share any other features?
Yeah, there's a couple more tools that I'd love to share with you. The Lane Makers tool is another one. I've heard before from customers that it's like, hey, there's just some areas that I cannot find anything in. I'll look at 6 different ways and I won't find the loads I'm looking for. And so there's a tool out there, and this one, in case you were going to ask, is not available for all Power users. It is available for our Power Office subscription on up. And that tool is called Lane Makers. Lane Makers really is a tool meant for you to find business partners out there. As a carrier, you guys are looking for brokers. And so what we're going to show you with Lane Makers is you type in a lane that you're interested in. So for instance, we'll go back to the flatbed from Atlanta. Maybe you're trying to work the Atlanta to Houston lane. You come in here and you put in your lane for Atlanta to Houston, and we're going to show you some companies that we think would be a good business partner for you. Now, it doesn't mean they have any loads right now necessarily. Based on their previous activity, these are people we feel like might be good matches for you. So if you were that flatbed driver and you're struggling to find loads in this lane, this is a company you want to get out in front of. This is somebody you want to contact and say, listen, I'm a driver. I'm in Atlanta going to Houston. Maybe you're doing that lane quite often. Introduce yourself to this broker, get on their radar, become part of their private network so they can start sending you these loads directly to you. And that's going to be key here. I always tell people it's a great way of adding business partners in lanes that you're just not very familiar with.
This is awesome. Michael, you mentioned something very, very important, and you said private network for the brokers. Can you talk about this private network for the brokers and what are the advantages?
Private networks is something brokers have been asking us for a while. And so that's something that we've recently implemented into our load board. The idea of a private network is to, instead of sending a load out to the entire database of all the carriers out there that subscribe to DAT, brokers have asked to be able to send postings directly to a list of carriers that they are associated with or that they've done business with in the past. They've asked to be able to set up their own network that they can send postings to without sending them to the DAT masses. What's happening right now is a lot of brokers are creating these private networks and they're sending these loads directly out to these carriers. And the carriers are able to log in to our newest website that we're coming out with, DAT1, and they can actually book those loads online without a phone call. The rate is listed on those loads so they can see exactly what they're getting into before accepting that load from the broker. And if the broker allows it, the carrier can even bid. You can negotiate back and forth until you guys land on a cost that you're both comfortable with. And then again, you're booking that load completely online.
Michael, can you do a little bit of demo on how to not to call and book a load?
Absolutely. So what you're looking at, I know my screen's a little cluttered right now, but try to envision on the left-hand side, you're looking at the broker view of our newest website, DAT1. Okay. On the right-hand side, you're looking at what the carrier sees on DAT1. So I'm going to go through the motions of a broker actually sending a load to a private network. And hopefully if I've set things up right, the carrier will receive that posting and be able to book or bid on it. How I'm going to do that is, as a broker over here, I'm just going to go to my shipments and I'm going to create a new shipment. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create that new posting. And now you'll see what's different for brokers is they always in the past just posted to the DAT load board for all carriers to see. What they can do now is they can post to either a private network or the load board or both. And so for this one, I'm just going to post to the private network. I have a bunch of carriers set up on my network right now, about 20 of them, and I'm going to post this load to them. And so I put in my information for that load. I wish they would put in their pickup hours and their drop-off hours to give the carriers more details. We do always encourage brokers to be as detailed as possible on their postings. And now I select what phone number I might want to call on, but here's where I'm actually going to say, you know what, instead of a phone call, how about I let those carriers book that online without talking to me or even bid on it. And so by making those two selections right there, we are requiring the brokers to actually put a rate on these postings. I know carriers, I've talked to a bunch of them. I know that's one of the biggest pet peeves is when brokers don't list what the offer rate is and it forces you to call just to find out. With this private network, that's not a problem. The rate is required for them. For your guys' sakes, carriers, we're putting the going market rates right now. So what this means is we know that in the last 90 days here, the going rate from Houston to Atlanta is $2,384, a low of $2,067, a high of $2,645. That is what carriers have been making in the last 90 days. Brokers see this when they decide to put what the rate is. Most brokers are going to be like, 2,300, I'll put it out there for 2,000, expecting that you probably are going to want to negotiate this rate up a little bit. They'll put that rate in there and then that's it. They'll just hit the post button. The carrier over here just got notified that a new private load just showed up. And so when that happens, carrier will just click on view and they'll see this private load pop up. There it is, Houston to Atlanta. And when they click on it, they'll see all the details that the broker provided. They'll see what the going rate is. They'll see what the broker's trying to get away with. And at this point, they can come down here and they can actually send the booking request and say, yeah, I'm cool with $2,000. Or they can actually place a bid. And this is where they can come back and say, I hear you want to pay $2,000, but I'll do this for $2,500. At that point, the carrier places the bid and the broker will be notified. There it is on the left-hand side. You can see that the broker's been notified of that. The broker will then go view that and see what the bid amount was and decide whether to accept it or reject it. The broker sees $2,500. Maybe they're like, yeah, I'm cool with that. And they come in here and hit yes. Now they're reminded that they have to send a rate confirmation over to you, but you as the carrier have been notified that your shipment is booked. You have booked this and now you're just waiting for the carrier to email you over a rate confirmation. All of that without a phone call. That's what we've been asked to do over the last few years is let's make freight matching easier. Let's make it to where I don't have to pick up the phone and call for details that I should already have.
Wow. Michael, I think this is awesome. And I do see power of using this. I have a scenario. Imagine I have one of my best friend. He's next door. He has 25 trucks in the flatbed market. And then I worked with this broker in the past, but I think it's a disadvantage for him. Broker posts a load. I get notified, but this guy next to me, he's not.
That's the private network. Brokers decide which carriers want to be on that private network and ones that they don't necessarily know or don't want to do business with, they will leave them off that private network. We do encourage carriers, now that this is out there, and all brokers, every one of them that has our subscription to us has access to this tool and can use it right now.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So can we talk about a little bit of a tri-haul? You mentioned about this tri-haul, that will be awesome. So this is very, very cool feature. So it's available now or is it in beta?
No, tri-haul is available right now, has been for a while. And this is something that I absolutely love going over with carriers, because when I talk to a carrier about Power or some of our other load boards, what I find out is very few of them know about this feature. You guys search like I just searched. I searched Atlanta to an area. Now, you guys might leave the destination blank quite often, right? Just, I want to know all the loads in Atlanta. I'll decide where I want to go. If you're doing searches like that, the tri-haul option never even appears for you. Tri-haul requires an origin and a destination both to have a city in it. Let me set the stage for you on this.
Sure.
How a carrier would actually use this. If I'm a carrier and I just dropped off a load in Atlanta and I'm trying to get home to Houston, that's a typical scenario. You drop off a load, you want to go back home. You want to find a load going back home. Well, instead of doing that search from Atlanta to anywhere, do that search from Atlanta to Houston. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to edit my search here and I'm going to do a search from Atlanta to Houston, Texas. Maybe I'll do vans instead of flats this time, so they did flat last time. And so I have that Atlanta to Houston in there, just trying to get home. And I do a search and I get no results on that one. I get a lot of similar results, but I've got no exact results, unfortunately. But you still see this little option pop up right here. This does not appear for you unless you put a city and city in here. That's the biggest reason why carriers are unaware of this particular tool. The whole idea of this was if I wanted to get a load from Atlanta to Houston, I know that that loads right now are paying about $1,700 if I was to find a full load that went all the way from Atlanta to Houston. What DAT is able to do, though, is we're able to show you higher paying routes. For instance, instead of taking one load from Atlanta to Houston, how about you find a load from Atlanta to Bowling Green, Kentucky, where we know that you can make on average $842. Now you drop off that load in Bowling Green, Kentucky, you find another load there in Kentucky going to all the way to Houston where you can make another $1,500. So what we're saying is instead of taking one straight through full load, you're doing two. You're routing through a city that's paying really good. And so your $1,700 single trip from Atlanta to Houston now becomes $3,000 you've made. And all you had to do was drive through Kentucky on your way home. That's going to add a few miles to your trip, about 800 miles straight through, about 1,100 miles by routing through Kentucky. But for $1,300 more, is 300, 400 miles worth it? I would say for a lot of carriers, absolutely. If you're not interested in Bowling Green, we're going to give you up to 5 choices you can use as cities that you can route through that can make you a lot more money than just driving one straight through load.
That's the tri-haul. The name comes from, it's a tri, basically like 3 dots connecting like from Atlanta to Kentucky or Bowling Green.
Yeah, it's triangle routing. That's where we came up with the name of tri-haul. It's really the triangle, those 3 dots that you're describing there. This tool is out there right now for every single user of Power. So it doesn't matter what package you're on. You just need to do that city to city search and we will give you this sort of information. I want to give you one more tip here. I do hear this a lot. It's like, well, what do I do next? Well, now you have to do some legwork. Now you actually have to like, okay, well, knowing that I can go through Texarkana, Texas and make that much money, now you have to find a load from Atlanta to Texarkana. And once you get to Texarkana and drop off, you have to find another load from there going to Houston. So we're giving you the suggestion, but we're putting that the legwork, having to do those searches and identify those loads, it is on the user there. That's something that we're committed to actually improving.
Well, that'll be awesome. Thank you for these value bombs that you dropped on us. It's huge for us, to be honest with you. I learned a lot from you. By the way, guys, links to 30-day free trial below this video. Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.